We don't know a whole lot about Resident Evil 7 just yet. In spite of Capcom sharing a lot about the game, there's still plenty that's shrouded in mystery. But the game's January 2017 release is rapidly approaching, and that means that even without Capcom sharing information themselves, some of it will come to light anyway. For instance, take Resident Evil 7's ESRB listing via NeoGAF. It reveals some new information about the game to us. Notably, it reveals the protagonist's name, as well as his primary motive for doing what he's doing. This is a survival horror game in which players assume the role of Ethan, a man searching for his missing wife in a derelict mansion. From a first-person perspective, players explore the environment and use pistols, shotguns, flamethrowers, explosives, and chainsaws to kill mutant creatures. Combat is accompanied by realistic gunfire, screams of pain, and exaggerated blood splatter effects. As players progress through the story, cutscenes can depict instances of gore and intense acts of violence. A character's arm dismembered by a chainsaw, a man's leg taken off at the knee with a shovel, a character impaled through the face with a shovel. Some areas also depict mutilated corpses with exposed organs, viscera. Most of that is known stuff already, or at least stuff that we would have expected, but we suppose we do learn some new story details here. That, plus this serves as confirmation of Capcom's early assertion that Resident Evil 7 will have combat after all. You know, at this point, we feel a little bad for Pete Hines. The dude is probably getting sick and tired of not talking about The Elder Scrolls 6, which was definitely evident in his statement on the matter last week. That said, another week, another interview in which Hines was asked about The Elder Scrolls 6, another clarification about the game not coming anytime soon. Speaking to GameStar, Hines noted that The Elder Scrolls 6 won't be announced at this Gamescom or the one after that. In fact, he said, there are at least 2 big games from Bethesda Game Studios before Bethesda get around to Elder Scrolls 6, he said, indicating that this may be a very long wait for fans of the franchise. Key here in the statement is his emphasis on Bethesda Game Studios. This means that games published by Bethesda, but developed by other studios such as Doom, Dishonored 2, or Prey, don't count towards that number. Rather, these will be games Bethesda Game Studios, the core development team that brings us Fallout and Elder Scrolls, develop. As we all know how long they take to make one game, strap in guys, this is going to be a long wait. We still don't know when Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding will release, even though it apparently already has a release date that it is targeting for itself, but Kojima at least seems to have started working on it. Posting on Twitter, Kojima shared multiple photographs and tweets that indicated that work on Death Stranding has started in earnest. That work in question appears to be in a studio, where Kojima has posted multiple pictures of the equipment, apparently compiled as many as 30,000 shots, and also posted a picture with apparently Mads Mikkelsen, the famous actor from the TV series Hannibal. So it seems like work on the game has started and is coming along well, and that we may even see Mikkelsen pop in, either by lending his likeness, his voice, or both at some point during the game. That sounds pretty good to us. Warner Bros. Batman Return to Arkham, featuring remasters of Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, was originally supposed to release in July for the Xbox One and PS4. However, it was delayed to allow for further polish, no doubt to avoid another Arkham Knight-like launch mess, with no indication of when it would officially arrive. According to UK retailer Base, though, Batman Return to Arkham will be releasing on November 25th. The retailer has leaked correct release information in the past, like the Elder Scrolls Skyrim Special Edition, and seems in line with rumors saying that the game would arrive by November. Regardless, take all this with a grain of salt until an official announcement arrives from Warner Bros. Batman Return to Arkham is being handled by Virtuous Games, the same studio which brought Heavy Rain to the PS4 and Final Fantasy X 10-2 HD Remaster to the PS3, PS4, and PS Vita. A couple of years ago, in 2014 to be specific, Zenimax and Oculus Rift developer Palmer Luckey went to court, with the latter getting accused of using his position at Zenimax to acquire the technology to develop Oculus. Forward to today, and the flame has rekindled, with the company claiming that Luckey didn't just use their technology, but also secretly and illegally copied thousands of documents. The amended complaint via Game Informer isn't backing away from suing Carmack. It continues a detailed description of what happened and how he was able to gain access to the documents and technology while working at Zenimax. Before leaving Zenimax, Carmack secretly and illegally copied thousands of documents containing Zenimax's intellectual property from his computer at Zenimax to a USB storage device which he wrongfully took with him to Oculus. After he had joined Oculus, Carmack returned to Zenimax's premises and took without permission a customized tool that Carmack and other Zenimax personnel had developed for work on virtual reality. Carmack was given a copy of the prototype by Luckey, and Carmack and other Zenimax personnel added numerous improvements to the prototype. Together, those Zenimax employees literally transformed the Rift by adding physical hardware components and developing specialized software for its operation. Eurogamer reached out to Oculus and they responded confidently, describing the allegations as one-sided and conveys only Zenimax's interpretation of the story. Last week during Gamescom, we finally got to see a brand new trailer for Battlefield 1, which was every bit as good as the 2 we had received for the game until then. However, a new trailer wasn't all either, since Battlefield 1 creative director Lars Gustafsson took to the stage during EA's Gamescom event to discuss some new features in the upcoming game. For instance, he discussed the horses in the game, describing them as a very fast way to get around the map. but they do come with a downside all of their own naturally. They were also described as being fragile, indicating that they may be easy to take down. What will not be easy to take down, however, will be trains. The armored train could single-handedly change the tide of a battle, meaning it's probably going to end up being something that teams vie for control of. It's definitely described as something that could shift the balance of the game towards the losing team's favor. Finally, the elite classes in the game were also discussed a bit, and their implementation sounds very similar to that of vehicles or heroes in Star Wars Battlefront. They'll be found as pickups on the map, transforming players into special classes with substantial strengths, but also a lot of weaknesses. One of the biggest problems with Final Fantasy XIII, one of the biggest reasons that it was maligned to an extent that it was its linearity. It's basically like a modern corridor shooter, pushing players down a linear path with no deviations, fighting one wave of enemy after another between story cutscenes. After the proud tradition of exploration in earlier Final Fantasy games, this was a major letdown. For Final Fantasy XV, Square Enix have gone in the other direction with a fully open world for the player to explore. However, in a recent interview with Japanese magazine Famitsu via NeoGAF, the game's director Hajime Tabata revealed that the second half of the game does develop a tighter narrative focus than the first, leading to a more linear structure for the story. The entire game structure for Final Fantasy XV consists of both open world and linear parts, said Tabata. The first half keeps going as an open world, but the story in the second half is led by a linear path. That way, you won't get bored of an open world as the rest of the game gets tightened up, so we made it in a way that you'll also get to advance through it as you have in conventional Final Fantasy games. If you played through the first half and only the main route of the second half, I believe the estimated playtime sets at around 40 to 50 hours. From the sounds of it, this doesn't sound like anything to mind too much. Basically, from the way we're understanding what he's saying, the game develops a tighter narrative focus, which the player is still free to ignore, judging by his remarks stating if the player chooses to play through only the main route in the second half. So in other words, this should also help allay the doubts to those players who are afraid that the open world structure of the game would be at odds with Final Fantasy's traditional penchant for narrative focus.
We hope you've enjoyed this video, so please consider subscribing to our channel. We do original content, reviews, graphics comparison, and much more, and try to upload a video every day. Thank you very much for checking us out.